What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm JLAG.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 5, Episode 3. And it's called Chapter 79, Graduation. Can't help saying it like that.
And don't forget, guys, stay tuned for the end of the podcast because we're going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments. There were so many moments. I have so many. Best lines. I have so many. MVPs, LVPs, so many.
All of them.
So much.
Yeah.
It was jam-packed, like full episode jam-packed. So stay tuned for the end of the podcast. We're going to go through our roundups and then your roundups because you guys sent us so many.
Yes.
So much.
so many of them.
So stick around for that.
And as always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into this episode.
Just really quickly, we've seen so many new people to the podcast since we started season 5. So thank you guys for listening. And if you guys do enjoy listening to us on iTunes, please leave a review because it helps a lot with like our rankings and all of that. If you're listening to us on Spotify, we love you. You're our soulmates. You're all good because that has another rating system. But if you're listening to us on iTunes, give us a review because it makes a big difference.
Please. Yes.
And
absolutely.
welcome and enjoy.
Yeah.
Recap
So
Rewind.
let's get into the episode. What'd you think?
Let's get into it. I hope you had your tissues close by.
Oh no, I did not. So it was just full. It was just full. Just full crying like this. Yeah.
I think everyone just lost it because like just reading on Twitter, everyone was like, "I'm gone. My tears."
This is what's happening today. Yeah.
Great episode. Absolutely great episode. I will rank it as my second favorite. Like the pilot for me is always going to be my favorite just because I feel like it was our intro to the world and everything was so cute. But this was like a close first. Like it was so well done. I think everyone got something of what they wanted to see. Yeah. And I was blown away by it. I really thought it was a beautiful episode. What did you think?
I loved it too. I think it's one of the things that we constantly say that Riverdale gives us these like very small moments of like what we wanted this show to be from the beginning. Yeah. And you know, there's no murders, no mystery. Nope. And it was great. I think that like there is obviously a great balance of telling these teenage stories through teenagers in high school and not making it seem like this crazy, wacky, tacky show. And we got it this episode. And I'm glad they did it for the graduation because like this is such a monumental moment for these high school students. And it's something that I think that we were ready for a while. Like I messaged you yesterday and I said, you know, to be completely honest, I could have done without like season 2 and 3 and just had this like come a little bit earlier because it's such a powerful high school moment. I know that they're maybe trying to grow with their audience, but their audience is like in college right now. You know what I mean? And like, it's just one of those things where I watch it now and I'm just like, yeah, as a high school student, I would have loved watching my characters graduate. And it was such a beautiful moment, and it is unfortunate that we're watching it now in January when it was supposed to be like last summertime, so like it would have been even more emotional for all the kids leaving school.
I don't know, I didn't mind that as much. Like to me it just kind of felt like it was a continuation of their school, but I think it reminded me of how much we did miss. I think like you were saying, there was chunks of their series where like it was getting too crazy, like it went off the rails. And this episode made me go back to be like, damn, like I really wish we sat in the classroom for longer. I wish like we got this moment like more. Like it just made me want more of that. But it's the end. Like that's it. Like we're done now. Yeah. So, you know, but I think they did a great job like truly wrapping up this phase of their life. And just looking at what you guys all had to say online, like everyone felt the exact same way. So many people tweeted us being like, if this is what they just did for their entire series, like it would have been amazing.
Amazing, exactly.
Because this is what people were waiting for. Yeah. It's just, anyways.
There's like two minor things that I would probably call out, but we'll get to them when we get to them.
Okay.
Outside of that, I thought it was like almost a perfect episode. I think that we got like a lot of great time with the characters. The way things wrapped up, I think were necessary and obvious for, you know, the time jump and all that stuff that we're ready for next week. But
I'm excited. Like I'm ready. I was emotional yesterday because I was like, this is the last time we're seeing
them
these
as
characters.
Like,
like we're not going to see little Betty. We're not going to, not that she's little, but like we're not going to see them in this context of like high school.
Right.
That's it. Like things are different. And especially how we see this episode finish, like things change. Like they are not going to be the people
same.
that we just saw them as. So
totally.
it's like you're saying bye to like this character. And it was pretty sad.
For sure. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
We're at the Cooper Res and Jughead is doing his narration. He's looking at the masks from Jellybean. And Betty comes in and basically says like, I'm really sorry that, Jellybean had to deal with this and it's really not your fault, even though he feels pretty guilty about what went down. And then it cuts to a moment where Alice is talking to FP. FP is just finished talking to Jellybean and he decides that he's going to bring her back to Toledo. And Alice is like, maybe that makes sense. Like, she got to go back to her mama or whatever. And then he kind of flips the script and says, I'm also going to go with her. Which was a gag, but also
like you get it.
It's tough because
get it.
At the same time, I'm also like, why can't Alice just go to Toledo with her?
Yeah, I saw your note and I was like, yeah, it's true. Like she could have just gone with him.
Yeah,
like, they didn't have to part ways.
They didn't have to part ways, but at the same time, I'm like, they had to write FP off the show because he's leaving. Skeet Ulrich was leaving, so it makes sense naturally for him to be leaving at this point. It also comes out that FP. Jellybean told FP about the accomplices that helped her do this crazy shit. So, and where they are hanging out. So then it cuts to this really quick scene where FP and Jughead go to Archie's place and they're like, you need to open up the gym right now. Then they go to Hiram's place and then they tell Tom Keller to be reinstated as sheriff. And I put in brackets like to arrest these kids. Like, why does he need what was his purpose?
Yeah.
Because they get to the gym and they check under the boxing ring and they find these kids and
just like chilling.
They're just sleeping, just chilling underneath there. And I was like, I don't even want to say it out loud, but like there was a problem and a discrepancy with the kids under that boxing ring. I was just like, okay, all the kids that I saw on screen were black. And I was
I was very, like, I didn't understand that was like, I was like, did I miss something here? Like, what's going on
That's
here?
what I'm saying. First of all the fucking murderers in that video and those videos look like white kids. Like, they had white skin. And then they show all these,
who has the time for that?
Anyway, I didn't want to bring, yeah, exactly. I was like, they're not about this, like,
you know what, JLAG? This part of the episode was literally a blip. Like, it was like, it felt like it was like 45 seconds and I was glad. I was like, good, be gone now.
Move on. Yeah. But at the same time, it was also to that point, I was like, why even waste your time? Like, did we even care about the accomplices if there was no like conclusion to it? I mean, Jughead does say.
Do you think it was more to say that Keller's the sheriff again? Like, it's kind of coming full circle where, like, in the beginning of the series, I mean, we saw him as sheriff. Then I was like, but that's so stupid. Like,
but that doesn't make any sense.
But maybe in the time jump, he'll be sheriff. That's why.
But then at that point, like, why did we even need to hear that? I could have just safely assumed that Tom Keller was going to be...
He got his job back.
Yeah, he got his job back. Like, he found a way. So I didn't really understand why they did it. I guess the only reason why they would have done it was so, like, Jughead could say, like, oh, wow, like... this is really like all the shit that's been going on in Riverdale is really fucked up, like the younger generation.
Yeah,
all the stuff that they're doing.
You're for sure. Yeah.
I just like the people that Jellybean's hanging out with. I doubt that.
And I almost feel like it was there to kind of take the blame away from her fully, like to be like she had accomplices. Like it wasn't
other
just
people to do it.
Her, even though she's still insane and shit. She needs she needs help like right now.
And again, I was like, you're gonna put this on black people? Okay. Let's move on. So yeah, then it cuts back to the Cooper residence and they're in bed. Jughead and Betty are in bed. And yeah, he basically says like, it's really fucked up for this next generation. Like, I can't believe all the things that we survived. You know, these kids are like growing into it. So it's like that whole idea of like
it was
a trauma that's happening.
Yeah.
And you don't realize when you're like in it that like other people are dealing with it on a different generational level.
Yeah. And the fact that like, and I know we'll talk about this later too, but the fact that like they do mention, you know, we had a part of our childhood that was normal.
Yeah.
Then this came after. But like theirs is like all weird murder and like every
Gargoyle Kings,
I did appreciate how they sort of linked the upcoming generation like to it all, and yeah, it made sense.
So then it cuts to Archie sleeping, and he has a dream about Fred taking a grad photo. And this was like the first time that I was like, oh no, it's going to be really
right now.
Yeah,
we're going to do this 2 minutes into the episode.
2 minutes into the episode. So it was funny because I was watching it with my partner, and he asked like, how did they even get this footage? And I had to explain to him that like when he died, like, you know, when he got shot, they had this footage because he had this as a flashback. It was very well timed, but it was almost eerie that they had this moment already saved.
And like banked, he even says it in the sequence. He's like, I feel like I want to be alive for this.
Like I never thought I never thought I'd see the day. Like, or I'd never lived to see the day. And I was just like
he's not. Like it was just a lot. And the fact that he is really gone in real life, like it just adds like a whole layer to it. And like your emotions are just
on point. Yeah. Like heightened. So then he wakes up from this nightmare. And then it's like Riverdale. Then it cuts to the next morning, and Archie sees his mom downstairs. He's excited to go for his last day of school. She's like, cool, I'm just ironing your gown.
She's like, you're gonna graduate. Don't worry.
Don't
He's like,
worry.
Okay, mom.
It's like, no, you're not.
So what did you think going into this? Like that he was gonna graduate?
No.
Okay. You have no faith in Archie.
We did talk about it during our promo reaction, because we do see him in the grad gown, and we did assume that maybe he does get to graduate, but I really doubted it. Even from that point, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't. He just missed too much. He missed so much. He got eaten by a bear. Like there were so many things that happened.
Yeah,
to this guy.
And like the funny part is, like we got so many tweets of people saying like the one time Riverdale is consistent and like actually like connects their storylines and believable is in this moment. Archie
like when he doesn't get to graduate from school. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
5 seasons later, they finally actually like stay consistent and logical.
Anyway, we'll get to that. So then it shows Cheryl getting ready, and like I don't know about you, but like all these emotional moments, like with these kids leaving school for the going to school for the last time, seeing Cheryl in that moment, like looking at the mirror, I was just like, oh god, like it really hits. They did really well with the flashbacks, and you know they showed
the editing
her.
was like gorgeous, and just constantly pulling back to the pilot episode.
Yes.
Where there's these beautiful moments that are so true to these characters, and it creates like a lot of emotion just watching it too. Like if you've watched this show since the beginning, like it takes you back to that moment.
Takes you back, yeah, for sure. Because you kind of have forgotten about Jason and her trauma over his death. So bringing it back for this episode, graduation, like the last time we're really gonna like see this wrapped up, it was kind of amazing to see it. She puts her classic, spider pin on her shirt for her last day. I thought it was just really sweet to kind of call back to like that first season. Then it cuts to the lodge residence, and Hiram has some pearls for Miha. Okay, Miha, you get some new pearls. And he says, I was
just like, pearls are so like season one.
I did kind of love it.
I wanted diamonds.
You know what's kind of funny?
Get her with Cartier diamond necklace.
Randomly, I was thinking about this like a week ago. I don't know why I thought about it, but I was like, I do miss like classic like comic book Veronica, where she has the pearls and she has that vibe about her. And since she lost the pearls, I was like, it's such an iconic look for her. I wonder if they're ever going to bring them back. And sure enough, they show this whole scene, and I was like, this is so crazy. So I was excited. I saw the pearls and I was like, work, girl, like let's get those pearls on. So because he says, I know it's been like a long time since you've worn pearls for me, but like maybe you can wear them for yourself on your last day. So it shows her putting the pearls on in front of a mirror as well. And there is a flashback from the first day when she's having a tour with Betty, and Kevin goes and says like, oh yeah, like, is that stuff like true about your dad? And she says something like, my father is like, I stand by everything that he does and the decisions that he makes. And that kind of flashes her back to like the present, and she decides to take the pearls off. What did you think about that?
I loved it. because I felt like it was so true to who she is now.
Right.
To honestly, like, if she had kept them on, I would have felt like she never grew this whole time. Like, she never changed. And so I feel like I did need her. Like, even as she was looking at it, I was like, take it off. Like, it's not, it's just not you anymore. It's like you're season 5 Veronica now. And like, you don't need daddy to buy you pearls. Like, you can go buy your own pearls.
Sure.
You can buy your own diamonds. So I did like how she took them off and she was like, no. Like,
I did think that it was going to be like a representative of the fact that she's like going back to her family roots, right? Like Hiram is like retiring. They're taking on the business. She's going to school, but at the same time, like back to family values, like back to like what her, like where she started in that regard, like defending her family. She still loves her dad, even though all the crazy things that he's done. So I thought that it would have been like a nice resolve for her character to be like, I forgive you despite all the shit that you've done to me, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see it both ways. Then it cuts to the Cooper residence, and Alice and Betty are talking. We get the moment that we were waiting for last episode. Thank God we got it. So Alice is like fully crying, and she's just like, my whole family is totally fucked up. Like everyone is literally gone, and she literally names them all off. She's like, I thought that we'd be having Thanksgiving and like Polly and the twins and Charles and FP and Jellybean and you. Like she names everybody and there's like 2 people left on the list because
and everyone else is in jail or like in a mental asylum.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fucked up. I feel so bad for Alice. But I was glad that we got that moment with Machen and Alice and kind of finishing off her where she's at least in that regard. Like, you know, dealing with her family trauma, right?
For sure. Can I ask you here, where's Charles? Like, are we not going to talk about what happens to him?
I'm assuming he went to jail. Yeah, I don't think we ever got the scene of him getting, like, arrested. But last time we checked, I think that Betty said, like, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. Yeah, we just never got that moment.
See, I feel like we missed a scene there. Even though we're over this mystery, I definitely feel like there should have been a scene of him being like handcuffed at the very least.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just sitting here being like, oh, I guess he ran away. Like he escaped and like he's out.
That's
now.
what
like,
I wanted. That's what I even said I wanted in the last podcast. I was like, it would have been nice for like Betty to be like, you're my brother and you killed like bad people. So like you have a chance to like run away.
Yeah.
But
that was kind of weird to me that like and especially because she did mention him in that part where she's like, I thought he would be here. I'm like, but where is he? Like, are we not going to talk about what
I'm going to go visit him in jail instead. Like, you know, like she could have said something, but yeah, she doesn't say anything, but it is what it is. What can you do? And Betty says, don't worry, I'll be there for Thanksgiving. Don't worry. Like it'll be just us.
It'll just be you and me.
And I was like, that's kind of sad. Like at the end of it all, this Cooper residence house like doesn't have a dad, doesn't have like a sister. Like it's just them 2 now. So it kind of like is sad, and especially at the end of the episode. But we'll get into that later. So then it cuts to Archie walking into school, and obviously like right away, like he notices the army recruiters at the front door.
Yeah.
And he like, you can tell that he's noticing them. So already I'm just like, okay, they're gonna really push this army thing. He's gonna go to the army. Like
how did you feel about that? I'll ask that right now.
About him going to the army or like his his thoughts
like even the whole like introduction of these guys and the fact that like he now is thinking about it. How did you feel about it all?
You know, I feel like it is a bit in character for Archie, to be completely honest. I think that because he's that person that doesn't really have like a central thing that he wants to do. Not to say that like if you don't know what you want to do after high school you should go to the army, but I'm just saying, you know, his character, he always had that kind of like, I'm just gonna tackle something and go for it and see how it goes, and like he does seem like he could fit in that world. Yeah, but even though he's a small town boy, but at the same time I was like, it just I wasn't really sure what else they would give him at this point. Yeah. You know, like what else would he do? Work at the construction? Like, I guess he could have worked for his dad's business. Yeah. Like worked at the boxing ring. He could have done a few things. He could have done. For sure. What did you think about it?
I did like it. Like I did by the end of it. I love that this was something that he chose for himself. Yeah. And he even was like, it's going to pay for my college. Like it's going to set me up for like the next 4 years. So I understood all of that. I felt like them inserting it in this episode felt very rushed because it was just like, he was going to go to the Naval Academy before. That's fine. But like there was that's no connection to like the army, the military. And it just felt very like forced in one episode where like I would have liked to see a bit more of a connection emotional connection to like his life. Like, did his grandfather go to the army? Like,
Yeah.
anything like that, like, would have been cool if they kind of threw that in. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, like, I get why he's going, and like, I'll buy it. Like, I did like it. I did like it.
Okay,
yeah.
like it's doing what it's got to do. But yeah, I think it would have been nice if there was some sort of tie-in with his like family line, and like maybe he would have had that conversation with Mary, which we'll talk about later. Wasn't super happy with like how that kind of ended. Anyway, then it cuts to a moment where they're opening up a time capsule from like the 1920s or something like that.
40s, yeah.
And Cheryl and Tony are opening it up. And the highlights that they pull out, one of them being the Red Circle comic book, which I thought was a funny...
Cheryl's like, ew.
She's like, ew. Red Circle comic. She just like tosses it away. And then there is a picture of a few kids before they went to war. Like Tony reads it for like 5 seconds. She's like, yeah, it's people in the war. And then she like puts it to the side. I was like, you didn't read that.
I thought they were going to be like, I thought they were going to flip it and be like, oh, like Andrew was like maybe like his great grandfather or something.
That would have been
like,
perfect. That would have been amazing. But then it would have been weird that he didn't know.
Like he didn't know. Yeah, that's true.
The whole time. So anyway, that happens. Of course, there's another moment once that picture is pulled out that Archie's just like, like, I think I have to go to the army. Then it cuts to everyone in the lounge, and everyone just says like, wow, I can't believe this is our last time sitting
in here
in the lounge. And it is kind of cool because it's almost like a series finale that we are like, but that it's continuing into a different setting. So it was kind of like us saying goodbye to these moments as well. Even though we'll say that in the last 4 seasons, we did not get enough of these moments. But anyway, so Kevin says, this is a sad moment for all of us. And then they get their yearbooks. They go through the yearbooks and Cheryl's like, "Aw, JJ, thanks for like the dedication page." Like Tony's like, "Oh, the pretty poisons got a dedication too." And then Kevin's like, "Oh, yay, all my failed musicals." Like
he's like, literally, he's like, "Oh my god, all the musicals that I ever." And then like before he can even finish, the PA is like, "Alert, alert, Archie and thing." I'm like, the guy couldn't even finish his like second last sentence in this episode. Like embarrassing.
Like, of the season finale episode, technically. So sad. Fucking
at this point, I feel like they did it on purpose to be like, haha.
Like, haha. Like, it's like we're all supposed to be laughing now at this point. Like, Kevin doesn't even have a line, so it's fine. And he understands that too.
It's so bad.
So, yes, Archie and Jughead gets called to the principal's office. So then it cuts to the principal's office, and Jughead comes out. So we don't get to see that scene with Principal Weatherby. And he comes out to Archie, and he's like, "Yay, I got to graduate," because I forgot that he also had like that transfer between Stonewall and whatever, so he gets to graduate.
Oh, that's why.
That's why he didn't get eaten by a bear, but it's fine. And then Archie goes in and he doesn't get to graduate, and he can't even take summer school to like make up his grades. Like there was nothing that he could do. He basically has to literally repeat his last year. Which was a bit of a bummer to hear because I was like, he did that bad? Like, he did that bad?
It's not, I don't think it's about doing bad. I think it's just like he missed school. Like, I don't think that he like failed everything. He just didn't even show up. So,
but it's kind of messed up that like they couldn't even just tell them this like from time. So he can be like, okay, then I'll just take the rest of the year off.
It's very unrealistic. Yeah. It's very like he would have known at a certain point.
Yes.
Like, everyone knows high school. Like, you would have been like, sorry, you can't make up those credits in this time. Like, it's just not like logical and
not
feasible.
Plausible.
So like he would have known it. Obviously, it's Riverdale, whatever.
Like, let's move on. So he does ask if he could walk with his class.
He's like, by the way, you can't graduate. You can't do summer school. You can't do any of the things that you really want to, but can you write the song for the graduation?
I was dying. I was like, I know. He's like, I know you're fake graduating, but can you please write the song for graduation for everyone else except for you? Like, I was like, that's so mean.
He's like, sure. So like, Mr. Okay. Honey's fully out. Like, he's not coming back.
He's gone. Yeah.
Most random character of all time.
Yeah, for sure. When he left,
I really thought they were
going
to do more with his character.
No.
Because he's a famous actor, that guy. So I thought for sure he'd have a bigger role.
I mean, he had his arc, and I think that was it. But, like, he didn't really have an arc. Like, it was kind of like an arc, but whatever. Yeah. So then it cuts to science class, and they're all sitting there watching the clock get to the final time, counting down. We're like, and it was kind of cute because I do kind of remember, not that I remember the exact moment, But I do remember like that feeling when school was done forever.
I was trying to remember my last day, like our last day, and like I could not. I don't remember it at all.
I think it was just that feeling. All I remember is the feeling of joy and being like, it's done. Like we're done now. We're seniors and we're done. But it was cool. Everybody cheerses. Everybody like screams and kisses.
First, everyone's like making out. I'm like, okay, calm down. Like,
it was like, no, like right away. And then there's this awkward moment where Veronica and Archie are about to like say something to each other, and then they hesitate, and then Reggie kind of like comes up behind Archie, so like Veronica dips, and she's
loved it.
Awkward. Yeah,
I loved it because they stayed true to what like was actually happening on between them, and like they stayed true to it, and it was very awkward, and like they both didn't know how to like proceed, and I loved it, and it was funny, but it was like, oh
yeah, it was a very real moment for sure.
Yeah.
So they're all leaving the classes, and as they're at their lockers, Archie starts walking toward the table where like the time capsule. So as everybody's celebrating, he picks up this picture, and Veronica is peeping in the corner, and she notices that he's at the table. Yeah, and she's like,
I love this too. And this is what I mean. Like all it takes is like one glance, one like cut to one little frame to kind of change the tone of a scene where like if he had just walked by himself, looked at it, and then like walked away, it would have meant like nothing. But the fact that she actually looked back in the midst of her celebration, it made you feel like, oh my God, she still clearly cares about him. Like she still wants him to like end on a good note, or like she's worried about what he's going to be doing. And great scene.
It was cute and interesting to see. Yeah, for sure. Like they're setting them up in a really nice way, because especially since we've had like this like Varchie on off. Yeah. This was like nice and subtle. It felt like real, and like this is where she's at in her head. Yeah. Like she still watches out for him,
and that they're somewhere in the middle.
Together. Yeah.
And that's okay. Like there's no one or the other end. It's just like they're in this weird middle phase where like they're feeling their emotions. And honestly, like I have to say, Camila Mendes, KJ Apa. First of all, everyone's acting was amazing this episode, like 100%. Number one. But those two specifically, like their facial reactions, their facial like gestures had so much emotion in it. Like even hers in that moment, like she doesn't say anything, but just her face, you're like you feel it, like you feel it, and like their acting was amazing this episode, so on point, like for sure.
So then it cuts to Jughead and Betty at home, and she's trying to write her valedictorian speech. Jughead's like, don't worry, you'll figure it out. And it cuts to, Jellybean kind of writing and like hanging out with Jughead at that moment. So you know that she's going to try to tie in that next generation, those Zoomers. So then it cuts to Veronica going to Archie's house, and she drops off a box of stuff that he left at her place. And she has one final request of the moment, and she says,
what is it?
Despite everything that we've gone through, I would like to stay the night. So he says, I wouldn't want anything more, and they start making out of the door.
So cute.
They leave the stuff at the front outside. I was like, can you guys please just bring the box inside while you guys close the store? You know, the things that kind of irk me, obviously. They too busy getting distracted. Yeah. So what did you think of this moment?
I loved
the fact that they banged. Yeah.
No, I loved it. I think it was very necessary. She could not leave 100%. Town without getting the D. And also just like, again, like they're in this weird middle ground where like she has these feels where she's like, I still want to spend my last night with you. Whether or not that means like we're going to continue on after this, like we don't know. I loved it. I loved it. And I love the conversation that follows after like the next morning.
Right. Or I thought it was totally believable. People like getting together with their exes. It's like very much a thing. And also like, they were both in a very vulnerable state right now.
It was like a goodbye
graduated. Hookup. Yeah, a goodbye hookup. Exactly. And like they always had that fire, that whole like, that passion. So it worked out. So then it cuts to them in bed after the shake, and she calls him out and she says, I noticed that you went to the time capsule after class, and he says, it's really weird. I was looking at this picture and I was just thinking about the fact that everybody gets to leave and do all these things, and then there was people that were deciding to go to the army and like leave for the army and fight a war, and she gets very concerned. She looks over at him and she's like, like, are you getting any crazy ideas? Like, where's your head at right now? And he was like, no, unless you think that going to summer school is crazy. And so I know we talked about like his decision to go to the army. Why do you think he decides not to call on someone who's known him for a bit of time now to get even some advice or understanding? And I know she's going to say no matter what he tries to say to her. But at the same time, like, maybe there's some like validity in what your girlfriend is trying to tell you in terms of like this decision. It's like a big
I just
decision.
think that he, like he says later on, he's like, this is my decision, it was like his choice, and he feels so good about it.
Yeah.
Once in his life, like he's not scared about a decision.
Yeah.
So I think like he maybe just didn't want to hear anyone else's input or advice. Like that's his path and his decision. And it was sad that he couldn't tell them the truth for a while. Like it was sad that like he still had to hide it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's he started to complicate things a bit, but
he did. It's fine. Yeah.
So then it cuts to the Cooper residence, and Jughead is helping FP pack, and basically he says, you know, I think I'm just gonna come to Toledo after graduation because like, why am I staying here? You said that family's everything more than ever, especially now with like Jellybean being all types of fucked up. So FP says, boy, you are going to college,
sit your ass here, boy.
Yeah, so
okay, like he's going to college, but there's like 4 months until then. Like, why can't he just come and chill with you? Like, what's the problem?
It's so true. No, so yeah, exactly. So he's like, you're gonna go to school. Like, it's something that like the Jones family never died. Whatever. Blah blah blah. He puts the pressure on Jughead to succeed in life. Then it cuts back to school, and Tony is by her locker with her grandma, and she's cleaning it out or about to clean it out, and you know, her grandma's like, oh wow, so many things in here, and she tells her nana, so many great memories with so many people, and my girlfriend. She drops the girlfriend line, and there's literally a picture of them.
Yeah, they're like, it's right there.
See that one over there, that picture, and so it was kind of weird because the grandma like just kind of like nods and smiles.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay,
weird.
Like
this whole
she wasn't even
was weird.
hesitating. And then Cheryl, you know, now she has her gown on. She starts walking toward Tony, but then she sees the grandma, and then she just like, dips. She's like, she like leaves.
It's so interesting to see Cheryl like so scared because she's not that girl ever. And we finally get to, in these last like 2-3 episodes, like we're seeing her like so scared, and like I get it. It's a totally different part of your life, and I totally understand it. But it's kind of weird to see her kind of pull back on some things.
Totally, yeah, you're right. Because normally she'd be like,
she doesn't.
Hey, TT, and she'd like make out with her in front of her grandma or something, you know. But it does show growth, maybe. Like that's the point, is like showing that she's not this like crazy firecracker. She's just like a firecracker. So then it cuts to Archie, and this moment was like, bah. So he's like, everybody's getting their gowns on, they're taking pictures with their parents, and like, it's like the slow motion shots of everybody like smiling with their parents and shit, and Archie's just like watching everybody happy, whatever.
It's not even like parents, it's like the dads. Like when it cuts to Veronica, like Hermione's just like, and then Hiram's like,
he's like, yeah.
He's like, it's so such excited. A different. I'm like, why not Hermione too? Like, it was like all the dads.
The
like
focus
being happy.
Was on the father. Yeah, for sure. And then, you know, Mary kind of comes by and says, because for a second I was like, did Mary forget to come
like, where
to
is
graduation?
She? Mary, don't dare.
And then she like puts her hand on his shoulder, and she's like, how are you feeling? And he's like, I'm just missing Dad. And I was like, I know you're missing
Lost
Dad.
Lost it.
I was so sad. I was like, this is such a sad moment.
Yeah, it was really, really sad.
So then it cuts to Betty doing her speech, her valedictorian speech. And it's so good. There are so many good things that she says in it. But basically what she says is, you know, we got to deal with so much shit in our high school years. Like normally it's just like normal shit, but like we had to deal with drama and people dying and like families dying and like kids dying and parents dying. And she was like, there was a time where Riverdale was more just like the sleepy, boring fucking town. And she's like, I
Nothing
just want us to remember that because that came before us. And I want it to be what the next generation remembers as well. So I thought it was really cool that she brought in like that next generation to say,
I loved it.
Y'all chill the fuck out. Like, do not do anything crazy for the next 6-7 years because I'm not coming back until then. So then it cuts to Archie singing The Time of Your Life.
All right. Let's just pause it right here. Because, we all wanted vitamin C. I was waiting for it. I was down for it. Yeah. But if you ain't going to play vitamin C, you could play this song. This one is the one. Yeah, for sure. It was like one or the other. It totally got me. Like, ultimately, him playing it and him hearing his voice say the words, I cried even more probably than I would have heard vitamin C. So let's be real. It was still beautiful. I loved it. Great choice of song. Yeah. A lot of people on our Twitter was like, yeah, they didn't play vitamin C. And I was like, sorry, guys. I feel like I incited like a war, but like, it's still good. Green Day is still good.
It was still good. Yeah. It was a good song. I mean, I love that song.
Yeah.
It works perfectly.
It is a graduation song. Like, it still is like a last kind of
or like a chapter ending song. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. It's really, really good. And he did a good job. Good job, KJ Appa, for singing that song, even though he didn't graduate. Like, I felt so bad.
And it was kind of weird because like they cut to him like in his room playing the song, but then the graduation was happening, so it was a little weird. But
I was like, are you in a recording booth? Are you a recording studio? Like, what's happening? Random moment. One of the things that I see that I notice when Kevin walks is Tom's all by himself. Yeah. And I forgot that, like, where's Sierra though? Like, where did Sierra even go in her life?
Wait, didn't she go with...
She didn't, I don't think, because I think Josie was supposed to be with her dad.
I mean, JLAG, at this point,
I know.
Are you like, we didn't even get Josie, okay? And you wanted Sierra effing McCoy?
Like, we're asking for too much?
You're clearly asking for too much.
Too much. It was just, I didn't even really like pay attention until I saw Tom standing there, and I was like, oh yeah, where's his wife? The one he married, and then she just disappeared.
Where's like half the cast?
Yeah.
That we're missing.
Real talk.
Oh, but we can have Sweet Pea in it.
But we can have Sweet Pea and yeah, thanks.
What about where's Sweet Corn? We missed him. When Archie goes up, I cried again.
Oh my God, so sad. Because everybody goes up. It was such a nice moment. Yeah. And then Archie goes up and he has to open up his fucking certificate.
Like no one else did.
And no one else did. He opens it up and it's fucking empty. Like it's fully empty. Like they didn't even put like a play again later or like sorry.
But it was like I have to say, like, shout out to the editors of this episode because I know how hard sound mixing is, and like the way like when he goes up you hear it, but then it kind of like hits him where he is. Yeah. And the sound sort of drowns out. And then it slows down, and then he's like looking in the audience, and he's not feeling as happy as he was, and then he sees the thing, and then he sees the army guys like walking out, and like it's like all of these things hitting him at the same time, and it was like overwhelming even just to watch.
Totally.
But yeah, his thing is not in there, the diploma, which I don't think it ever is. They give it to you like
afterward. Yeah. I don't think they like. I think it's like too complicated. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe different schools, but. On a side note, I was like, the entire montage was completely out of alphabetical order. I was like, this is really stressing me out. Archie would not be the last person getting his fucking
He'd be the first one.
Yeah, he'd be like, oh shit. And then Archie be sad for the rest of it. Even when they got called to the fucking principal's office, I was like, he would always go before Jughead Jones.
True.
Like, come on.
Good point,
anyways, it's all the drama. Bring in the drama. So then it cuts to Cheryl, and she's leaving school by herself.
Shout out to Cheryl for getting her maroon, what did she call it? The crimson colored robe.
Yeah, so she got her robe. She's leaving school, and Penelope, her mom,
like
just
out of the bushes.
Ba-boop. Like she literally comes out.
At this point, she probably like walks with like a bush like thing, a cover. She's like,
yeah, she just like walks around like that. And she literally says,
she's like, Cheryl.
She's like, Cheryl, I'm over here. I was watching you from the corner. It was great. Good job for graduating.
She's like, my only child graduates.
She was so crazy. I missed her. And I'm so sad that we only got
and I wish she was more normal.
Yeah. I kind of am okay with the fact that she's not normal, but at the
Really?
same time, I'm just like, I wish there was more of her if you're gonna make her crazy and keep.
Well,
her
okay,
crazy.
let's say the whole scene because like it like
Yeah.
really stunned me because I was like, oh my god, they're giving her an actual like ending.
Well, yeah,
/
this is the guy.
continuation. Yeah.
So we were talking about it even last episode, like, why isn't this bitch in jail?
Yeah.
So she decides now of all
Now.
times when she's leaving for graduation, like leaving for school, that Penelope is going to turn herself in to atone for the crimes that she committed to all of Riverdale, murdering people, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you feel about her deciding to turn herself in?
So she's like, I'm gonna go to jail, and then Cheryl's like, Mommy, like,
She's
you
like-
can't go to jail, like they'll kill you. And she's like, No. She's like, Higher Match is gonna get me like a sick room,
Yeah,
like I'm gonna
we're,
be lit.
We're together.
And then she's like, I'll be out like in like a year or like 2 years. I'm like, you killed like 30 people. Like you're gonna be in jail for life. Like, what do you mean?
She's like, 4 years, time jump,
Yeah,
I'll
she's
be
like,
good.
yeah,
I'll be fine.
yeah.
It'll be great. I'm like, okay.
I think like you were saying, I think like I don't mind it. Like I like that they kind of wrapped that up.
Yeah.
Did we need it? I don't know. I
don't
kind of
know.
wanted her to like stay in the walls forever. Like that kind of would have been cool.
That would
but
have
like
been fun.
I was like, okay,
Like, that's
fine.
the thing. It's on her own terms that she's deciding to turn herself in.
Yeah.
Like, why can't she get caught?
If
like
she
a
got
normal
caught, like
person?
that would have been like, okay, she's
Like Tom Keller, like the fucking new reinstated officer, finally does something with his life and like actually arrests somebody for the first time in like 25 years. So then we get a really sad moment with FP, and he says,
no,
farewell. So he says goodbye to Jughead first, and that was a really sweet moment because, you know, like he's just like, make me proud, like you can do this, you got this. But Phallus, like the heart hurt.
Alice was
again.
like, is this it? Like, this is how
Like, is
our
this the
story
end
is
of our
gonna
story?
end?
Yeah.
We waited mother effing 5 seasons to have a Phallus story, and you're just gonna leave me for your crazy ass daughter? No, she didn't say that. But she's like, is this how our story ends? And he's like, of course not. He's like, this is not the end. He's like, I just need to like get right and like get this girl help. And I love this scene. Like, I loved how
it made sense.
It made total
It did make
sense. You know, anything less would have felt like he's not a good dad. Like if he was just like, I'm sending her back to her mother, and like she could like anything less would have felt very weird. So I'm totally glad that they like even had a Phallus moment, because like they could have finished it off and like not had that conversation, right? Yeah. So for him to be like, absolutely not, like we're not done. I'll be back. It's a to be continued. I just gotta like finish up my like, you know, baby daddy duties. Loved it. It was so emotional, but like so beautiful.
She says something so sweet. She's like, I know what you have to do and I love you for it. And I was like,
yeah, and that's so true. It's like ultimately like he's doing something that's he needs to do as a man, as a father of his children. Like he needs to do that. Yeah.
You know, like she's not like turn away from your like daughter.
She could have just gone with him. Let's be real. She could have like hopped on the other side and like been like
100%. We'll talk about that later because I do mention that again later. But yeah, then it cuts to Archie and he's all done and he goes to the recruiters as they're kind of packing up all their boxes, and he signs up, or I guess he signs up to like talk to them about it. So they're like, okay, like this is not just a regular thing to happen. You have to make sure that you like are making this decision like with straight eyes. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I just want to hear what you guys have to say. So then it cuts to Pop's diner, and Veronica asks for a clean menu from Pop's, and she also drops some news on Pop and gives him the diner, gives him full ownership of the diner.
Yeah.
First of all, why didn't this happen earlier? Like, tell me why she waited.
She was over making the onion rings.
She was like, I don't want to wear this outfit anymore. It's yours now. Like, here
that grease ain't good for my skin.
Yeah, but I was just like, she could have easily done this like from time. I didn't understand why Pop needed to get this moment in this episode, but okay.
And also, like, why does he have to own it? Like, I get it. It was beautiful. I loved it. Like,
why does he have to own it?
He could still like run it. Like, she could still financially own it, but like it could be his to run, which is like what was happening anyways. Right. I think it was cute. I think it was just to set up the fact that we're gonna see his granddaughter own
Take over.
in the flash forward. I think that's why they did this whole scene.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
True, good point. And she says something that I kind of like died at. She was like, when I came to Riverdale, I never ever in my entire life, like she goes in on Riverdale.
She's like, if
I would have this would have been my
home. No, never.
That's exactly what you
No,
were saying.
it was cute though. I liked it.
And
you know
she's
what?
like, yeah.
Anyways, yeah. I'll talk about
she's
it
like,
after too.
I love Pops, and you guys made me feel like home. So there was that part of the episode. Then it cuts to the kids, and there are, I guess I shouldn't say the kids, like the core 6 or whatever, and they're filling up a new time capsule. So Betty puts in a newspaper and a bobby pin, which I thought was really cute. Reggie puts in a football. Veronica puts in the menu and the Bon Nuit matchbook. R.I.P. Bon Nuit. Then Kevin puts in his musical programs, and he puts in Josie's motherfucking ears into this box.
Do not start me on this journey.
I was just like, why are you doing this right now?
The insult? Don't get me wrong. I think they were gonna bring her back, but I think because of COVID, they couldn't bring her back because RAS said something like last week. He was like, "Trust me." He's like, "We wanted everyone back for this episode, but we couldn't because of COVID." So I do feel like they were definitely gonna have like Ashley Marie back, but they just couldn't. And like in doing so, like he had her freaking kitty ears, and I'm like, guys, like if you're not gonna have her, don't have her. Why do you have her ears?
Have her there at this point.
Yeah,
like, why?
She could have like FaceTimed them or something.
She could have been like, "Hey, girls,
yeah,
I'm back." Yeah, I felt like it called it out too hard. That I was just like, "Okay, come on." Guys.
And even he was like, "I wish she was here." I was like, "You guys have not mentioned her in a season and a half, and now you're gonna wish she was here."
Now you're gonna wish she was here,
guys.
Because she probably would have gotten a better storyline than Kevin, and she's not even in the fucking show anymore. Then it cuts to Cheryl, and she puts in the HBIC shirt. She says that there was no one who was able to take her place.
She's like, no one worthy of this t-shirt name.
No one's worthy. And then Tony puts in a Pretty Poisons jacket, and then Archie.
No, she's like, I still want to be a serpent, so I'm gonna keep this jacket, but you can have the Pretty Poisons.
She's like, the one that I had for a week, you can have that one.
Yeah.
And then Archie puts in a hammer from his dad's toolkit and a guitar pick. And then finally, Jughead puts in his beanie. I was going to take my hat off.
But beanie.
Yeah.
What did you think about that? Did you like that?
I thought that it was like a chapter closing.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like, because Jughead is so iconic with that hat, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was major. Yeah. Well, because it was funny because like I think my like stream like froze at that point. And the next like all the scenes after, his hair looked so like trashy, and I'm like, what's wrong with his hair? Like it looks so messy. I'm like, oh, like his hat, his beanie.
His hat. You're not used to seeing his hat on.
Yeah.
It was definitely weird seeing him without his hat like later on, because I'm like, this is just
because his hair was like all over the place. Yeah.
So then it cuts to the bleachers. It's like nighttime, and Archie and the core 4 are just talking and hanging out.
Loved it.
Drinking some beers, some like little underage alcohol drinking. Okay. And he says, every year we have to come back to Pops, and we have to have like a sit down, and we'll do it the year after. Deal? And
or no
deal.
Like,
yes, everybody's like down. And I'm like, this is never gonna happen. And so then he also tells everybody that he's gonna go to the army.
Yeah.
Everybody
like just plops it right in there.
Is like, what are you saying now? So Veronica right off the top is like, are you fucked? Like, I will not stand for this.
Again, her reaction was very much like her face was like, you motherfucker, you lied to me. Like it was like, because like he had just told her, no, I'm not gonna go.
And she knew, like she did book it. She booked it from like when they fucking fucked.
Ass swipe, like
you butt hole. Yeah, she was just pissed about it, so she storms off, and he stops her, and she's like, there's like a literal war going on. She's like, this is nothing like the Navy. You're going to the army. A part of me is like, Archie did not know the difference. Because
he was like, it was like the Navy thing. I was going to go there. And then she's like, it's literally two different things, Archie. Like, you could die in one of them.
Like, what is wrong with you, girl? So he ends up saying, like, I'm going to do it. And, like, Betty and Jughead are both like, if it's what you feel in your heart. Because he does say, like, it's the first time that I actually feel confident in my decision. And, like you were saying, like, I'm happy with the choice that I made. And so they were down for it, but like Veronica was like, I'm not standing for this, so she's gone. Then it cuts to Cheryl and Tony at home, and she tells Tony that she's no longer going to university.
Yeah.
And she's gonna stay
because they had gotten into the same. They got into the same university, right?
Yeah, that whole fucking episode of them having to do the interview and like all that shit, like trying to get Tony into the right school and stuff. I was just like, all of this was for nothing. For nothing, yeah. Because she decides that she's gonna stay at the like in Riverdale and revitalize or rehabilitate the Blossom name because there's so much shit around it. Yeah. So Tony basically is just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, if this has anything to do with my Nana, I'm going to snap your neck. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you even bringing this up right now?
How'd you feel about that?
I was not okay with it. Personally, I think that they could have found a better way to break them up. I felt like even with the grandma stuff, like aside, I don't think that even that was enough of a reason for them to have broken up. Even though like they say, she's like, in the meantime, and she's like, don't say it. We're not breaking up. I'm not going to say it. Don't say it. So she doesn't say it. But at the same time, I'm also just like, they didn't really need this moment, I don't think. They could have just kept them strong together and they could have figured things out. And they could have, we don't see any of it. So like, why does it matter? But I'm sure it's all going to make sense in the time jump whenever we see like, where they're at relationship wise. But at the same time, I was like, like, why does she have to give up school in order to run a business?
Her education, like why not go to school, get your MBA, and then come back, and then like revitalize the business. Like you're a high school graduate. Like what are you gonna do with business? Go to school. You're like 18
years old max. Like what are you gonna do with?
So I just didn't get why they did that for her story. Where because like I just feel like they could have still had them go to school, and then they just could have maybe broken up like at some point. Like there, I don't know.
Or I guess they didn't want to.
It was just more for like drama.
It didn't really. We had the moment, the Shony breakup moment. I guess if you want to call it that. But it was it was sad. I felt really bad that they were breaking up. They had like a really cute tear moment. Like Vanessa Morgan had the single tear kind of running down her face. I thought it was really good.
You know what? Like, the only thing. Yeah, you're right. The acting was really good. The only thing that doesn't feel like it never felt real to me was because like this whole aunt grandma thing, like it came so quickly and was never really a part of their relationship, like up until like now, basically 2 episodes ago. So it's so hard for me to like be invested in that as an actual like force of breaking you guys up because it only came like 2 weeks ago. So
because she says, she's like, I love you, but I don't want you to have to choose your family over me. And I'm like, she's not choosing. She's not. She even said it herself. She's like, she is coming around. We will figure it out. Just give it like literally the summertime and she'll be fine.
So like, it was hard for me to really get into like that.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know if it was necessary, but we got the moment that everybody probably cried at anyway. It was still good, Then it cuts to Jughead and Betty, and I was like, oh God. Everybody's breaking up. I can't do this right now. Like this was the one that like fucked me right up. So really? Yeah, I was really messed up about this one. So Jughead is sitting in bed. You're gagged. Jughead is sitting in bed. Because I don't know
where you're going with it. I thought you were gonna be like, whatever.
No,
you're like, no, I was gone.
I was so upset about it. So he's sitting in bed and he's like, isn't it weird that like they've been so weird, like Archie and Betty Archie and Veronica since prom, like they've been really squirrely. I love
that he picked that up because again, like we've always said it, like where are those little moments where like you notice things about your friends, right? Up until now, they hadn't noticed anything, and then finally he's like, wouldn't like Veronica have known that he was gonna go to the army, like if they were actually like together? So I love that they did. I love that they did that connection there.
And then Betty has her moment.
Like she doesn't waste a second. She's not like, oh yeah.
Well,
she's I know why.
She's like, I know exactly why it happened. It's because of me. She like looks over and I was like, oh fuck, like this is all going down right now. It's
happening right now.
And I literally like clenched my fist. I was like, no, come on. Like right now. I knew it was a finale. I was like, you're like ready for it all to end up. But I was like, oh fuck, like this is actually gonna ruin them now. And I was like, it was actually really sad because Betty does admit to kissing Archie. She says it's only one time. Perfect, beautiful acting between both of these actors. Lily and Cole, like they did such a good job. Cole has this moment where like he's in the middle of anger and sadness and he's like crying, but also like wants to hold her. And I thought it felt like such a real experience because like, yeah, when you're that betrayed, but you still love the person who's in front of you, but they did something wrong, like what does that emotion look like? And I think he did such a good job in this moment to like portray this like cry, happy, I love you. She wants to embrace him. He embraces her. She takes her top off, and then they decide to have apology sex.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was a really sweet, beautiful, sad, everything moment for Bughead.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the Bughead fans were crying all at the same time.
Yeah.
What did you think about it?
You're
like the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like it was, again, very flat. Like,
oh shit.
Hello, react. Like, this is not the first time they've kissed. There's more to all of this than just this one kiss. They did it again. There is something going on. And his soft spot is his best friend. Like, it is Archie, right? Is Archie, so yeah. I wanted a little bit more of like okay, this is the second time this has happened. Are you sure there's nothing going on? Like, neither him or Veronica like asked that question. Right. And I'm sitting here being like, why are you guys asking that question? Like, they're standing here and they're saying to you, it was just one kiss. It was nothing. Like, I love you. Yeah. That's great. But now this is the second time it's happened. So there obviously there might be something else going on here. The fact that they don't question that is a little weird to me. But I will say, like, I did love this ending for them too, because it is the final episode and I didn't want them to be fighting. I didn't want them to be like, oh, you did that, and then like storm off. I think this was a beautiful, like, kind of ending to it. I kind of just wanted that reaction like maybe 2 weeks ago or like last episode, you know?
I think because it's been built up for such a long time, like it's also shock, right? It all happened so quickly and she apologizes right away. So I don't know. I mean, our Jughead doesn't seem to be the type of person to be like totally overreactive. Veronica, I see more, like the one storming off and going crazy. But Jughead, to Betty, the person that he like loves and adores, like being betrayed is one thing, but like wanting to like smack her is like a different story.
Yeah, I'm
like,
not saying he's not saying he's gonna do that. But it's just very like, and I guess because Veronica didn't react either, I definitely thought that he would react because I was like, oh, they're gonna flip it. They're gonna do it where like the person that you thought would have reacted didn't, and then now
he reacts.
But again, I'm thinking way too ahead, and the show doesn't think that layered. Yeah. So I kind of was missing a little bit of that, but I did love the way they still ended, and I wouldn't have changed that. I think I just would have loved to have this conversation like before this moment, you know?
Right. I don't know. Yeah, I think that they both resolved. It's the same thing that I said with Veronica, right? With Jughead, I do just feel that because he's already seen it happen. It's already happened once before. They've already had the conversation.
Yeah, but that's so bad. Like,
but listen, I feel like it's that whole idea of like just like feeling defeated. Like, this is the second time. So what do you do after the second time? Are you going to be just as angry as the first time?
You keep going?
Or are you just going to be like
thing?
I mean, they don't. Like, that's the thing, right?
Yeah,
like, the way that
totally.
It all ends
but I don't think it
makes sense.
I don't think they ended because of that. They ended because they were going to two different universities and like they just couldn't be together.
I do think that it has to do with the fact that like she was able to do this cheating thing in the middle of their relationship. Like, I think it does play into that for sure.
Okay,
and
I didn't get that.
I'm sure it'll like come back in the like, you know, in the time jump once they are able to like reconcile or whatever. But we'll see. So then it cuts to the next morning and Jughead leaves to go see Archie off. He's like, I'm going to go see him at the bus stop. And Betty decides that she's going to go see Veronica. And again, this is when Betty goes, I love you, Jug. And he says, I love you too, Betty. And again, like I said, it was just such a heartbreaking moment because you know that he's not over it, but he's like trying his best to be okay with it. And just like seeing her so earnestly being like, I love you. Like, you're the one that I want to be with by her saying that, I was just like, oh, this is such a shitty way for it all to end. So then it cuts to Jughead and Archie at his place. And because Jughead's picking him up and Archie says bye to his mom. And I wrote down that I was pretty surprised that they didn't give Mary and him a bigger moment, except for at that door. Like, we got a lot of people have that moment with their parents. Like, Veronica had a moment with Hiram, like even giving the pearls. But this moment, like, this is Archie, one of the main characters of the show, Like, and I know we've seen so many scenes that are so meaningful between Mary and Archie, but like this is him leaving for the army. Like, come on.
I know. I was like, take your son to the bus stop. Like you're going to stay at home? Like
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
She like puts that house up for sale right away.
Maybe it was like a timing thing. Like maybe they shot that scene and like they had to cut it short. Like, I don't know.
Who knows? But like, I just wish, and also like, I would have liked to see a bit of a reaction. Like we saw how Veronica reacted, but like your mom, you finding out that your mom,
son's gonna,
that's like pretty extreme news.
It is.
So like I would have liked to at least see like her be able to like wrap her head around it, whatever.
Or she could have just said, "I'm proud of you for choosing something that you truly wanted to do."
Done.
Like it would have been like that.
Totally fine.
Yeah,
I would have just liked to see an interaction between two of them, and like maybe show us that picture. Show us that picture of like you in the army and like your grandpa in the army or something. You know, like that would have been a good opportunity for that. So then it cuts to Betty going to check out Veronica at her place, and she starts off by saying,
"Loved it.
I just want to apologize." And Veronica is like, I know what you're here for. And honestly, like it's so much more than that right now because I'm just sad and I just need you to be here.
See, like all of this I loved. I love that they didn't waste time being mad at each other. Like I did love that because there's just no time for that right now. We're not going to end off like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love this part.
Yeah, so they start crying. She starts crying. I start crying. Everybody's crying. And then it cuts to Jughead and Archie at the bus stop, and Archie also fesses up to Jughead. But before he finishes what he's gonna say, Jughead's like, "I done know what you done did. It's totally fine." It is interesting, and I know that this is probably not going to come back up again. But like, it is interesting that they like. Betty doesn't explicitly say like what happened. She just talks about like her kissing him one time during Hedwig. She doesn't talk about the fact that they were sitting in a fucking bunker and like holding hands and all.
It was more than just a kiss.
So it was more than that. He wrote
a song for her.
Like, you're like, what the fuck? You're just like pissed about it.
No, but like they're sitting there being like, it was just a peck. And it's like, guys, it wasn't just a peck. There was a little bit more emotion to it. Yeah. Like a little bit.
They do bury the lead a little bit for sure. But I think that like the meat of it all is the fact. And I was kind of worried that he was going to say something like Archie was like, "Oh, thank God you're okay with it," because when I wrote her that song, and then Jughead would have been like, "You wrote her a song."
Wait, he's like, and that's the thing. Like Betty doesn't even say that to Jughead in the room because I was like, no, he wrote a song for you. Don't forget.
Yeah.
And then she's like, she never brings that up. She's just like, no, it was just a kiss. She doesn't bring the fact up as to how Veronica found out, and as to why Archie probably had to tell Veronica in the first place.
Yes, for sure. But that can lead into what happens at the very end of the episode. So we'll get to that. So anyway, they're at this bus stop. Archie says it. Jughead says like, "All good, bro. Like, you know, it is what it is. Like, you're my guy. She's my girl.
It's always going to be
totally
us
fine.
Too. Like, we're always going to be bros. Like,
and
it was cute. Gonna be cute.
Like hooking up with the same girl. It's fine. No, don't worry about it." And then it cuts to Betty and Veronica. And this was such a sweet moment. They're sitting on her bed. And Betty's like, "I just feel responsible for what happened to you and Archie." And Veronica's like, "Honestly, yes, you're a homewrecker, but I'm just sad about the fact."
Did she say that?
No, she didn't. Could you imagine? She was like, "You done fact it out." So Veronica has this really sweet moment where she says like, "I'm just sad that it's over, and I'm sad that it ended the way that it ended." And she just wanted to give him one last hug and tell him that
she's like, "I just want to see him." Of course, I'm sitting there being like, "Girl, go say bye to the guy. He might die. You'll never like."
So then Betty, you're never gonna get that Gender D. So Betty's like, "Well, I have an idea. Like,
she's like, I know exactly how we're gonna do this next scene.
We're gonna do it right now. It's gonna be in the jalopy right now." So of course, Betty and Veronica roll up in the jalopy to the bus stop, and Jughead was just sitting there. He wasn't even like packing up to leave.
Well, how are you going to leave from here? You don't have a car. You don't have a bike. You don't have a scooter. You don't have a skateboard. Where are you going to go?
Where's your motorcycle? Like, you fucking serpent. Like, all the motorcycles are gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was ridiculous that he was just sitting there. They're like, "Oh yeah, the bus just left like 2 seconds ago." So she's like, "We're going to go after them." So they all get in the jalopy. They're driving away.
This whole sequence was like beautiful,
like, perfection.
Yeah,
I mean, I have a note about it, but so there is this moment where Archie's sitting in the bus and he is like having all these memories. There's a memory of Veronica, like seeing Veronica at Pop's Diner for the
really
first
quickly
time.
before we start doing that, is that when he opens up the photo?
Yes. Yeah.
So he opens up a photo and I'm like, please, dear God, don't be a photo of Veronica and him. Because like it just felt so cheesy.
Yeah.
Like if it was, and then it shows Fred and I lost it. I was like,
no.
I'm gone. Like everything came back to him and his dad. Yeah. Like it's so far beyond this, you know, the girlfriend that you had in high school. Like your like truly this is him and his dad and him not having his dad anymore. And like it just brought everything home. Like it was so beautiful. And I was like, that one little thing could have changed everything for me, seeing that scene, like seeing him hold his dad's photo and not like him and Veronica. I love that. I loved it.
It was a very
and then it starts like the whole, you know, the sequence with everyone else. Yeah.
So then he thinks about Veronica, he thinks about his dad, he thinks about like the time with the jalopy, which transitions into like the real jalopy, like driving beside the bus. I thought it was so well done, well edited.
The music was good, like everything was so good. I didn't
like the music. That's the one thing that I will say. I hated the music. I was like, anyway, we'll get to that in a second. But in the moment while they're like driving, they're honking. And it was really cute to see them like side to side. Yeah. He's like waving at her. Veronica's like, I love you, Archie. And he's like, I love you, Veronica. I thought it was so cute. And I was crying so much. I was crying so much, guys. And he has to stop the bus. And
he's like, yo, bro, can you stop the bus? Like, that's my girl, man.
That's my girl, my friend.
The guy's like, all right. There's like
he's
two people in
weirdo.
here.
Yeah, it's not a big problem. So he's like, you're going to the army. So like, this is the least I could do for you. So he has a proper goodbye with Veronica. She's like, don't get yourself killed. And then he gives a hug to Jughead and gives a hug to Betty. And Betty's like, see you in a year.
It was very much like the tone was very much like there's these 4 kids and they're holding on to these memories of the past.
Yeah.
But there is still something happening right now that it's not happy. You know, like it's just like they can't fully still be the kids that we knew. And even when he says bye to her, like he doesn't even kiss her. He's kind of just like, okay, like bye. There's goodbye. So much pain. There's so much like sadness still in between these 4 and their stories and their futures. So like, like the emotions were like, I was like, gone.
Gone for sure. Back to the music really quickly.
Yeah.
I just wish they chose music that was not as ominous. It felt like
you're right.
It felt like such a dark soundtrack. It literally sounded like the fucking Game of Thrones soundtrack.
Well, the words are literally like, I will follow you into the darkness. I was like, who's going into the darkness? Like who's
like imagine
the first
that.
time I heard it, I didn't like it. You're right. It was like, why is this like creepy music? But then the second time, I don't know. I just like I liked it even more. It was weird.
And then it ends with his hand on the bus as if it's like he's going into a horror movie. I was like, you make it seem like he made the worst decision. Like he's like, Rugrats.
It looks like, it looks like he's saying like, save me.
Yeah. I was like, if they switched that with a more emotional track, then I would have known. I would have cried even more. 100%.
I think you're right. I agree with you now.
I think that it like I think I'm gonna try to put something together that shows how it's supposed to play out.
You should do that because even the lyrics was like, I will follow you.
I was like,
I'm like,
and it's so Riverdale. Like it just frustrated me because I'm like, of course Riverdale is playing like some ominous fucking track on something sad because like they want us to be like, oh shit, something.
They could have even played like the Riverdale melody, just like in a different like tone.
They could have had something light and soft and like, I just thought it was poor music choice, to be honest. Let me get this final moment. So they all say goodbye. They're all kind of just standing in the middle of the road. It was a very emotional moment despite the music. And then it cuts to Cheryl and Nana, and she kind of rolls up to Thornhill, and she decides that she's going to start her rehabilitation with rebuilding the Thornhill mansion. Right. So starts there.
I like that. It's a fixer-upper episode. I'm down.
A little fixer-upper episode.
Well, I'm always down for HGTV fixer-upper.
She should start out like that. Should be in her flash forward storyline. Yeah, she does like
redoing Thorncliffe.
Yeah. I did think it was kind of random.
It was so random.
Like I totally forgot about Cheryl at this point. I was just like, why?
They should have put that before that sequence.
Like I didn't need it. But they had to fill in the last 10 minutes of the commercial break. So they cut to Jughead and narrating, so he's kind of finishing off the whole story. And
so sad. This part was
he
really
says
sad.
so sad. He was like, Archie was the glue that kept us all together. Veronica was the first one to
leave.
Dip. I wrote dip, but yeah, she left first. And she says like, I'm gonna go to the Hamptons early and have a little vacation before school with my mom and Andy Cohen.
I was like this, guys. I'm like a middle of crying. I'm like, oh my god, like they're all gone. And then she's like, I'm leaving to see Andy Cohen, and I'm like, oh fuck,
guys,
man. Like really, like you had to ruin this moment.
I was like, is he a producer of Riverdale? Like, can we just like confirm?
And then
yes or
then
no?
doesn't Betty say like, oh, my mom would love that? She said something.
She's like, your mom would really like that or something. And I was like,
yeah, like, well, obviously she would.
You may as well have said her mom and Andy Cohen from Bravo's television.
Yeah, it was
hit
weird.
Show, The
it
Real
was so
Housewives.
weird.
Yeah, you might as well.
I thought she was gonna say I'm going to Europe for like my own solo trip to like whatever.
Find myself.
But no, it wasn't that.
Nope. So then we get this final moment. So like this is what broke my heart.
This hurt me. Yeah.
Was Jughead and Betty, and he says like, you know, we never talked about, so to the point that we were just making earlier, we never talked about like the Archie and Veronica thing any further. Like it was never brought up again. So to your point, to our points where we were saying, like they don't talk about the fact that there was like a bunker moment. They don't talk about the fact that he wrote the song. So like there is so much unresolved even in Betty, even though she said like we kissed and we did this, and she feels like some level of guilt gone. There is a reason why she didn't say it to him again. You know what I mean? Like tell him the full story.
Why?
I think it has to do with the fact that like those feelings are not resolved. Like the reality of the situation is Barchie is still a little flicker flame in the background. And now that everybody's kind of broken up, like anything's possible, right? Like anything's possible for this time jump. So I think that not having that information confirms that like she has still some residual feelings that she still cannot let go of Archie, right? Like this was the thing that she cannot let go of. So, and also Archie didn't say anything about that too. He just said that he wrote a song. He didn't say and then they kiss. He didn't say anything about the fact that they spent like a whole fucking night in a bunker staring at each other. So like there is something unresolved about that Barchie that we haven't gotten yet.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, and I think you're right. The only thing I would have wanted a bit more to kind of go with what you're saying is that when he said bye to her, like on the road, like at the last scene, if there was like something, you know, like when he said bye to her, there was nothing. It was like fully platonic. It was like, bye, Betty, like peace. There was not a look. There was not an extra long like hug. I wish there was just something very, very, very subtle that could have left us with that sort of thought that would carry it into what you're talking about right now. But it truly, to me, by that point, felt like they just don't care about each other anymore, because like that bye was so cold. He was
also, it's also like maybe it's not a good time for us to be like gazing at each other's eyes.
But that's what
like,
I mean. I know what you mean, but still, like you can't sometimes help that like extra feeling, you know?
Yeah, true. They could have had like a final shot of not, because I think that final shot of like Veronica looking at him
could have had like Betty in the background too.
Should have showed Betty being like,
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That it's always the two girls, you know?
It's always the two girls, or it's always just like their all four of their complicated relationship. Like show all of them and their reactions to him leaving. So yeah, it was a really sad moment seeing them kind of like separated in bed, like not touching each other. Like there's just like these moments, and then this final piece where it shows them both on the couch and they're like at separate sides, and she says that she's going to be going to she's going to do a road trip with her mom before school starts. And he's like, okay, like she kind of just springs it up on him. And she's like, what's going to happen to us? And he's like, I still love you. I will always love you. And she's like, I will always love you too. And then he says, but for now you should focus on Yale and I'll focus on Iowa. And I was like, okay.
And the fact that they're like broken up in real life too, it was like, I was like, oh shit, like this is weird.
That's what I wrote down. I was like, I thought about how Lily and Cole broke up in real life, and I was just like, this is such a sad thing to see, and it is hard for like these actors to see them play out these scenes again. It's just like, fuck, that's some hard shit to have to deal with. And I do love Bughead. As much as I love the idea of Barchie, I do love them together. I love how they like just killed this whole series so far as a
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah.
So it was
I
it was a
100%
sad moment.
agree with you. I love their ending. It was so beautiful. And like when they say they love each other, you feel it. Like you really truly know like they do no matter what love each other.
Totally.
I just feel like there is something unspoken right now in the middle of you two that you guys can't even talk about. And that is a little shaky to me. And until you guys can start to deal with those feelings and whatever it is and then that middle ground, then like you guys have to take some time apart.
Exactly. And I think that's more than anything else, it's that, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they just can't even get themselves to talk about the truth, which is what is the thing about Archie that keeps you coming back? What is the thing about the, like, you know, like that's not about me, that's making me feel like I'm not worth it, that you can't like just be faithful and stay faithful to me. Anyway, then it goes a little Riverdale for me, for my liking. So
I love
Jughead decides so when they leave, Jughead decides that he's not going to stay at the Cooper residence, and he stays in Archie's abandoned house.
He's like, and then they left, and he's like, and then it felt weird to live in the Cooper's house when they weren't here. Okay, so then I moved into Archie's bedroom, abandoned bedroom, by the way. Like all the furniture's gone.
All the furniture's gone.
He's like, but it was on sale, so it was abandoned too.
Yeah.
So then like the electricity went out. And then 2 weeks later, the gas went out, which means that the water went out. He had to like explain like what each like utility was and like what it means when it goes out.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then he's like, I stayed there until motherfucking August. He stayed in the bunker after that, because after they cut the power, he stayed in the bunker. And I'm like, you stayed all summer long in an abandoned fucking house when you could have gone to fucking Toledo.
Or just even gone to the campus. Like maybe he could have gone to like Iowa and just like chilled around there or something.
Or gone back to fucking Alice's place. Why are you living in shit and piss like by yourself? I don't understand why you can't just like be a normal teenager.
It was so sad though when he went down there and he was like, honey, I'm home, and like it was just echo and like silence.
Yeah.
And you felt the absence of everyone. Like you felt that emptiness, that like nobody was there anymore. Right.
But he also like did that to himself. Like he had options. He fully had options.
I know, but you know, they wanted to make it like dramatic.
So dramatic. It was like fucking Jughead, man. So one of the final shots is him going to Pops for his final burger before he goes to college. And then like it shows him like leave. The pan shot cuts from the door and it says like 1 year later.
Okay, pause.
It's him.
Pause. When it came on that screen, did you think that they would be there?
No. I mean, hold on. I should say I was hoping so hard.
Yeah,
I was hoping so hard.
Me too.
Knowing that the show is the show that it is and it's a teen drama and they made the promise. Of course, once you make the promise, it's not going to happen. But I was hoping so hard for us to like at least get that moment together.
I thought at least Archie would have, like, at least one of them would have been there with him. Like, I knew that it probably wasn't going to be all of them because it's just too good to be true. But, like, for no one to show up, I was like, that's so tight. Oh, my God.
I was like, don't you guys have phone numbers? You guys just decided to show up on that day?
Like, just text him to be like, hey, we can't come. Like, sorry, we can't make it.
Like, text each other. He had his phone out.
Especially Betty. Like, especially your ex-girlfriend who, like... Unless something happened that like they're gonna cover later to be like in that first year, like there was a fight or like something major happened.
Maybe we'll get you a fight finally. Like, you'll get that big blow up.
Look, I'm not expecting it. You know what I mean? The thing is, guys, like, and it pans, and it was a beautiful moment. It was beautifully like sad, like, but it pans, and he's still there, and Pop's like, I'm so sorry, like they didn't show up, and he's like, and then the door rings, and I'm like, they're here.
I felt then
it's like not them, and I'm like.
Yeah, I was like, Jughead is like out here being like the loneliest of all lonely people.
Lonely boy.
I just felt so bad for him because like that's how the whole series started, right?
Yeah.
Like him sitting in a booth by himself writing a book, you know, like, and I thought it was such like these seasons. I guess that we should say like season 4 because this is technically the end of season 4.
Yeah.
Like the way that they wrapped all 4 seasons into like this story, like bookending it. It was a great bookend for this chapter in their lives. Yeah. Like I thought it was so well done.
And then also like I wanted to ask you about this because you love kind of pulling in what his narration says.
Yeah.
And how he was like at the end he's like And then he leaves and he's like, they didn't show up, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's like, it would be 6 more years until I
6 more
saw
years.
my friends.
Yeah.
He's like, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
And I'm like getting goosebumps. And I'm like, oh my God. So he's still telling the story. Like he's gonna tell it like 7 years later.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
I loved it because like I was saying before, like it is his narration that carries through every single episode, and him continuing this chapter just means that we're gonna get more Riverdale. They just got renewed for season 6. So like, we're going to get more of it.
I wonder if his book will be like Riverdale, like the town.
Riverdale, the town.
Kind of like
Riverdale.
Peyton Place was like this crazy book in like the 60s or whatever about like a town. It's going to be like his book, but like Riverdale. I could see that. That'd be cute.
And he also does say, he's like, we would be different people. We would be brought together by another crisis, another mystery.
Yes.
But that's another story for another day. So there's a lot more to
I don't know.
Which is what we assumed. I assumed that they were coming back for
what do you think it's going to be?
An extreme death of some sort.
Oh, you think so?
My theory currently is like Pops gets murdered. And like he's the one that they all come back for to like solve it, and like it's a new murder mystery, and like I don't know. I'm sure there's gonna have to be some murder involved because like this is what the show is about.
Yeah,
it's Riverdale. But I'm so interested to see how they do it with characters who are supposed to be 7 years older.
Guys, like 7 years is a long time to not talk to your friends, to not talk to your ex. Like for Betty and Jughead to not talk for 7 years, that is like almost a decade. That is like, I don't know you anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are as a person anymore. Like it's a really, I think I'm scared that it's going to be like, I know they'll bring it back and they'll make it work. But like 3 years would have been like, okay, 4 years would have been like fine. But 7 is like,
7's pretty extreme.
I've moved on. Like I could have had a kid.
That's almost like 10 years worth of shit.
That's what
like,
I'm
that's
saying.
A long fucking time.
Yeah.
I agree. I just
not
think
even
that there's
talk.
such a separation. Yeah.
Like they didn't even like send a text to be like, "Are you good?"
He's like, he literally says it'll be 6 more years before I see my friends again, which literally means they do not even stay in contact with each other at all. And I'm like, whoa, that's
gonna be weird. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is. I'm nervous. I'm nervous and I'm excited at the same time because I'm like, I do want them to do it right, but at this, like, I hope, and I'm like crossing my fingers that they're spending this flash forward with more story and less like there's a gargoyle in the corner.
You mean more character and
more
less
character?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, and less like crazy shit happening. We need to rebuild these characters. We need to reintroduce them to the relationships that they left. Yeah. Like I know it's that 1 year. It is kind of a gift, but almost like it's. I'm happy that we're getting it next week, but I'm also kind of sad because I feel bad that like we don't get that gap of anticipation of like what is that flash forward gonna feel like? What is it gonna look like? You know, I was thinking about being like, oh shit, like we get to watch the promo after this podcast recording. We're gonna watch it and we're gonna react to it. But like we usually wait for the whole summer to get it from Comic-Con. So like that moment of seeing that next season was always like the next exciting thing for him to say, you know, it will be 6 years before I see my friends. It's going to be another crisis, another mystery. It's going to be another story. I was like, wow, what a great way to have a season finale the way that it ended. But then we get it right away.
I am not like, again, I love the fact that we don't have to wait. Like I was telling my fiance earlier today, he's like, you're going to get a new episode next week. Like it already is that time. And I'm like, yeah, we don't have to wait 4 months. Like it's happening now. And it made me more excited. And I'm super glad that like this all happened the way it did. Cause we would have been like freaking out waiting 4 months to see the flash forward. So I'm really excited.
I'm excited. I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited.
You know what? I am putting my faith back into the writer's room. You are hearing this, me saying this right now. You guys got my trust again. Please run with it. Like, do good. Bring Josie back.
Bring Josie back.
Bring whoever you got to bring back. Just
to make this show amazing.
Yeah. Okay, guys, this is a long podcast. If you're still listening, like we love you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. So really quickly, some comments from listeners. We have at Unholy Trinity saying, expectation, Jughead beating the fuck out of Archie. Reality, maybe a little normal high school angst is good for us. So to your point, like, I did the like reaction that he had.
Yeah.
At True Nico says, I was supposed to feel sad and like a bittersweet because oh my god, they're all breaking up, but like dude, I feel like the writers don't know what they wanted to do. Are they mad at each other? Or are they still friends? WTF, confusing. So that's an interesting comment because I don't know. I feel like they did do it right, but at the same time, it is like not cut and dry. It's not like we are broken up. I'm fighting with you. It's like
I loved
very
it.
Complicated.
Yeah, I saw Nico's comment and I was like, I get you, but I loved it. You know, and I'm like the hardest critic I find. So like I really did like it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Zipper Paul, who is Sarge, who we know as Sarge, one of our old Patreons, says, imagine if they had leaned into the style of show instead of the circus we got. Excellent episode for sure. Agreed. We say it all the time.
Yeah. Come on. He tweeted literally as my brain was thinking that. I saw his tweet. I was like, oh my God, this is in every scene. I was thinking that same thing. I was like, if this episode kind of reflected the whole series, it would have been amazing.
It would have been great. Yeah. Let's get into our recap roundup.
Recap roundups.
Best moment. My best moment was the bleacher conversation.
Okay.
I just felt like it was so Friday Night Lights, so high school, like by the bleachers, shooting the shit. Yeah. Loved it. I loved how like he kind of confessed and was like, I'm going to the army. Yeah. And then I think when they were all saying goodbye to him and like the car, they were chasing him down.
That was such a good moment too. I love that.
Trying not to sneeze. Yeah. Of course, that was such a beautiful moment. They did it perfectly. Yeah, best moments.
My best moment's gonna go to Betty's valedictorian speech. I think it was the first time that I started to cry. I was like, uh-oh, here we go. Here it's gonna start. And I think it just really perfectly encapsulates like her as a character, but also like the show and like what we want from it. Yeah. And what we've gotten from it, I guess, too.
WTF moment.
WTF moments. So my first one was, I wish they created a connection as to why Archie felt a strong pull to go into the army, which we kind of discussed throughout the podcast. Like all the Naval Academy stuff, like I just kind of wanted a bit more of like a connection as to why he felt so strongly about that specific
the army job.
But the army, you know, but by the end, like honestly, like I had no qualms. I was like, it's okay, like I trust that, like this is good, it's fine. Then Penelope showing up after graduation and then having like her ending, I was like, what? Like, okay, what are you doing here? I guess we'll take this. Betty telling Jughead like in that moment, like I was saying before, I felt like they could have had this moment last week, you know, and then everything kind of this week was perfect. I love the way they ended and that they still loved each other, but I felt like I needed a bit more reaction. What else do I have here? Oh, Charles. I talked about this earlier too. I was like, what the F happened to Charles? Like, there is no ending to this freaking whole season and a half like villain. Yeah. We're not gonna see his ending.
I think it's just assume that he went to jail and that's that.
Yeah. Those were my what the F moments.
You were like, many of them, all of them. Yeah. My big one was Jughead staying in Archie's abandoned house and then the bunker.
Yeah, you felt really strong about that.
Before heading to school. I literally was like, what the hell? It's like, why didn't you go?
If you ever leave town, I'm never going to stay in your
I'm like,
place.
What the hell? No, we're just like, why didn't you go hang out with your family? Like, where did Alice go? Why didn't Alice just go to Toledo? Like, what? Like, so many questions came from
Also, can we just quickly talk about why they sold Archie's house? Like, why are you selling it? Just keep it.
I think it was something that was mentioned by Mary like a while ago where she's like, as soon as you graduate, I'm going to go like hang out with my lesbian wife or whatever.
That's fine, but like, I guess like, what are they gonna do with it?
What are they gonna do with it? But at the same time, like, Airbnb it or something. Like, it's literally like Archie's like childhood home.
It's literally Fred's legacy, that house. Yeah. So for me, it was very also shocking to see them get rid of it. I was like, wait, I need a minute. Like, hold on.
I didn't even like, they didn't even talk about it. Like, there weren't even moving boxes around or anything. So it didn't even become real until like you see it on screen. And he's like, when they put the house up for sale, I was like, oh, true, they're putting the house up for sale. That sucks. So it did happen very fast. But I was just like, Jughead, you're so overdramatic. I can't believe you just like stayed in the abandoned house instead of like staying with a friend. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Why are you suffering, boy?
MVP
was the core 4. You know, no matter what happens to this show, it always comes back to those 4 characters, how they resolve their issues, and the ending and the goodbye was beautiful, and I loved it.
I'm gonna even hone in even a little bit more and say Betty and Veronica. I loved that we finally got them together.
Yeah.
And also separately and together and separately. I think both actors like murdered their like roles in this episode.
Yeah.
And made me cry many times. Thank you so much.
Many times I cried.
And it's sad. It is sad saying our last MVP before the time jump, because it's like, shit, like this is them as high school students.
That's what I'm saying.
It's done after this.
You know, it's interesting what you were saying before, how this is truly a series finale without being a series finale.
Yeah.
And not many shows get that opportunity to do that.
It's true. It's true.
You get to literally reset the show. So
yeah. So do it right. What we're saying. Don't fuck it up.
LVP.
LVP? I think it was yours. Oh, yeah. It was yours, but I also said like Kevin.
Yeah.
Just because
I truly
didn't have an LVP. It was such an amazing episode.
Yeah.
Everyone was amazing. But if I could, I would have to choose Kevin, and just because like he barely had any lines.
Yeah.
I almost felt like the show was making fun of him now that like they don't even give him a full
like
line.
mocking him basically at this point.
Yeah, and then like he was holding Josie's cat ears, and I was like, don't do that to our girl right now. So
how dare you do that to our girl? Fuck it. Yeah, mine is definitely Kevin. I also wrote Reggie down because I'm like, taking the fact that Reggie was dating Veronica for such a long period of time, and now he doesn't even get one sentence. He doesn't get one sentence. He like talks about a football in this episode, and that was literally it. And I'm just like, wow, they really do pull these characters around, really don't give a shit about the secondary characters at all. I felt that. But
except for Tony. Like Tony got blessed. Tony got blessed. Yeah.
The best line.
Best line is gonna go to Veronica, and then when she says to Pop, you know what's funny? When I first came to Riverdale, I never imagined I would call it home ever. And then I came here to Pops, and that's exactly what it felt like, home. And like, to me, watching it the second time, this one made me cry even more, because I was just like, it truly comes down to Pops, where like even in the pilot, it's Betty and Archie, and like she comes into Pops and like sees them for the first time. So
and those are her
for
friends
me, it
for
came.
like 4
It was
years.
all full circle, and I love that. And I love that she's the one that says this. You know?
Yeah, totally. No, I know that I called it out earlier, but it was only because like she said like never would I ever, like as if like Riverdale was never on her map. I was like, damn girl, you really hated Riverdale. I have a couple. The first one is Betty's speech. I'll say the really short version, but she says, our years were co-opted by heartache and drama and even death. It's not fair that so many of our classmates aren't here to walk with us today. And it's not right that some of our parents aren't here to the ones who are. So please stay young for as long as you can. Stay innocent for as long as possible, even if it's just only for one moment. And I was like, oh, so good.
Yeah.
And then I had Veronica's line in there when she says, it's how it's all ending, so sudden and unresolved. I wish I had said goodbye to him. More than anything, I wish I could have hugged him. And then finally, I said, oh, nightmare child.
I love
what
that.
What do you mean? By Penelope, because I needed a little laugh, and she was like the only thing that made me like die of laughter this episode. So thank you, Penelope.
I also loved when Veronica was like to Archie, she's like, oh, so dramatique, Archie, tonight.
So dramatique. Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Let's get into our listener roundups. Why don't you do the first one?
Let's do it. Okay, Zipper Pull, Sarge, Daddy, best moment. Too many to choose from, but I really liked Jug tossing in the beanie.
Okay.
Worst moment, Kevin, of course, getting 0 wrap up, but I expect nothing less at this point. WTF moment, Miss Penelope Blossom coming clean. I kind of wanted her to stay living in the walls.
Yeah.
MVP Veronica, Camila brought her FN A game. She really did. Like, I know sometimes we tease her acting, but like this episode, she earned every single stripe. Like, she killed it.
She's grown exponentially as an actress, I think, in my opinion. I think that, like, you know, we know that she was one of the first ones who didn't really have an acting career before Riverdale, and like you can see the growth now that we're in season 5. Like, it's crazy. Good job, Camila.
LVP, Principal Weatherby, just because he wears a single glow now. So.
He's just like, ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shony 5 on it says best moment, everything Cheryl related. Best line, you know I love you with every ounce of my soul, when Cheryl says it to Tony in the breakup scene. WTF moment, Betty told Jughead she cheated, but they had sex straight after. Like, where is the drama? What a waste of a plot. Interesting point. MVP Cheryl, Madeline Petch made me cry. Also Archie, nice acting from him. And LVP, the cheating storyline. She's not a fan of the storyline. It made Jughead and Veronica look pathetic. How could they have not be mad? Also, the writers, just because every ship got a kiss except Shony, like Shony, have gotten way different treatment than the straight ships. Shony can't even kiss, but the cheating ships get sex scenes. It's just
I feel like
fair.
Shony gets a lot of kissing scenes.
They do. I mean, it makes sense when it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And she says, like, I get this was meant to be in season 4 finale last year, but they still could have made changes due to COVID, like WTF. Also, another LVP is the people who make the promos. No Shony at all.
Yeah.
For fuck's sakes.
Yeah. At Postmaster, best moment if I had to choose, because pretty much everything about this episode was lit. I'd go with Betty's speech. WTF moment, Penelope turning herself in / sneaking in to see Cheryl graduate. The MVP, the writers, for doing such an amazing job with the episode, for sure. It was beautifully written. LVP, Jellybean, best line, stay young for as long as you can, stay innocent for as long as possible, even if it's only for one more moment. WTF moment / question, did Jughead really have to leave the Cooper home compared to living in the Andrews home? I think JLAG covered this really extensively.
Pretty extensive. And my feelings about it.
Yeah.
Dazit Micah says, best moment, B, V, and J going after Archie. Very good moment. WTF moment, Penelope coming out of the bushes. MVP, everyone. LVP, Jellybean for not being grounded. And best line, are we doomed to be haunted by this town for the rest of our lives?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
At Ruthie and 33, best moment, the whole graduation scene. WTF moment, Penelope coming out of the bushes with, I love how everyone
yeah,
with all bawling. I need a bit of humor. Yeah, okay.
Totally.
MVP, the whole cast, everyone made this episode what it was. Amazing. LVP, really, Mary, why you selling the house? We need to talk first, sis. I agree. Like, come on. Best line, Betty's entire speech.
At Bad Rad Cat says, MVP Jughead, LVP Jellybean for breaking up the blaming Jellybean for everything.
I know.
Best moment, the gang saying goodbye to Archie. WTF moment, the gang leaving Jughead by himself at Pops. They better have a good excuse. OMG. I am actually looking forward to seeing like why they all decided not to show up at Pops.
I wonder if there's a reason.
There must be a reason. Best line, Penelope lovingly calling Cheryl her nightmare child.
I love that.
Because it was so cute. Like, she didn't say it in like, I hate you, nightmare child. She was like, why nightmare child? Why aren't you going to university?
If you don't hear it, like, you'll miss it.
You couldn't tell,
so fast.
It's so subtle.
At Matt says, best moment, the whole episode, the best Riverdale episode ever. It makes sticking through the roller coaster of season 2 to 4 worth it. Was in tears throughout the whole episode. I love that. I think that's so true about this episode. And like, we're all here. Like, we all know
we all made
what
it.
Train wreck season 2 to 4 was. So we fully made it. We're here together. WTF moment, the whole class turned into a massive orgy the moment school finishes in the science room. MVP, all the actors. LVP, Sheriff Keller didn't even shave for his son's graduation. That's amazing.
That's the tea.
I have a real quick one from Twitter, Lana Skopjak. Best moment, Cheryl being the queen she is. WTF moment, Veronica telling us that it's been 3 years since everything started. Like, who are Jason and Black Hood again? I totally forgot they used to exist. Yeah. I didn't. Best line. Everything Betty said ever. I love her so much. Becca Sarah, MVP, the writers for giving us a normal graduation. See, you could do it. You should have did it.
You should have did it, girl. Yeah.
Guys, that's so good. I love when you guys send us your roundups. We had so many this week.
Well, yeah, this was the episode of episodes. Look at our podcast. It's the longest
honestly,
one we've ever done.
I was like, this is going to be a 2-hour one. It's okay. We give you guys the good content. We're here for the good times. Here for the bad.
You guys got all week. Where are you going? Listen to the podcast. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
With that, I would like to take this time to thank our patrons of the episode, our Rewinder squad, White and Nicole, our Lit Rewinders, Tina Ann, Soleil, Kate, And our mommy rewinders, Becca, Sarah, Tamala, and Grace. Thank you, guys.
If you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind.
And make sure you guys are checking us out on all of our socials: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. You can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and make sure you guys are keeping on commenting.
Yes.
I'm so happy we're here.
Love
at the
it.
end of season 4, beginning of season 5, technically.
Are you ready?
Yeah, keep us connected to stay engaged with Recap Rewind. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.